Hey, good afternoon everybody. Matt Zerby here from Wasco Nursery, and just wanted to shoot a video today and talk to you a little bit about a disease that our customers are experiencing on a very regular basis called Apple Scab. And it's a disease that affects both crab apples as well as your fruiting apple trees. If you have a small home orchard, you might have experienced this in the past. I'm going to turn the camera around and just kind of zoom in here. This is one of my mature crab apples. There's actually a couple other ones in the background there. But if I zoom in here a little bit, you can kind of see there's some nice green leaves already starting on that tree. And so I kind of turn around here. And this is another crab apple right behind me here. This is a kind of a red-leafed variety. I don't actually know which varieties these are. They were already here when we purchased the home. They're probably 25 to 30 years old. And they are definitely susceptible to apple scab. So apple scab is when it's a fungal disease that affects crab apples and fruiting apples. And typically the symptoms are the tree leaves out and flowers beautifully in the springtime. And then typically starting in June, you will start to see yellowing leaves, oftentimes with brown or gray spots on them, and the leaves will start to fall off. They will start to fall off pretty quickly in June and July, to the point that the tree might be half, 3/4, sometimes even 80 or 90% defoliated by the end of July, leaving just a kind of a skeleton of a tree with a big mess on the ground, and it's constantly dropping yellow and brown leaves, and it just really is very unsightly, and it isn't good for the overall health of the tree either. So I'm going to kind of tell you about how the tree gets infected and how you can control it. So it's a fungal disease. The fungus overwinters on in spores, and it will overwinter on last year's fallen leaves. So the first thing I tell people when it comes to management of crabapple scab is what we would call sanitation. So hopefully I've done a pretty good job, but if we look underneath the tree, I see mulch. I do see a few weeds. We'll get to those, but underneath the tree, I really don't see much for fallen leaves from last year. Getting rid of last year's fallen leaves is one of the most effective management methods. All right. The second thing would be spraying, and I've brought a couple little props here to show you. So the product that you're going to want to use is called Infuse. We have it in a hose end ready to spray. We also have it in a concentrate, which you would need a self-mixing sprayer like that. So timing is very critical. Crab apples get infected typically when the leaves are first emerging and when we have cool, wet weather. Those are the conditions that are most effective for the disease to spread. So we want to start spraying probably this weekend. Looking at the weather forecast, Saturday and Sunday are both supposed to be warm and dry. Today is maybe 50-ish degrees and kind of wet. So this is the exact type of conditions that allow crabapple scab or apple scab to reinfect a tree. So my suggestion, probably spray this weekend, certainly early next week if you can't get to it this weekend. As far as spray goes, the first spray should be before bloom when the leaves are about 1/3 of their mature size, which is right about now. The second application is going to be about 7 to 10 days later. And then you're going to spray a third time about 10 to 14 days after application 2. And then you will spray a fourth time 10 to 14 days after application 3. Now, applications 1 through 3 are for sure the most critical. So getting on it right away this weekend is going to be really important. The product, again, is called Infuse. It's a systemic fungicide. It gets applied to the foliage, and it gets absorbed into the leaf tissue a little bit. That's why they call it a systemic fungicide, but it's not something that you pour into the soil. It has to be applied to the foliage itself. And the application rate, if you're using the hose end, it comes pre-mixed. If you're doing the concentrate using your own dial a sprayer or mix a sprayer, you're going to do about 1/2 to 1 full tablespoon per gallon of water. I would recommend going on the 3/4 to 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. Go a little heavier, especially on the older, more susceptible varieties like the ones that I have here. There are some really great new varieties of crabapples that are highly resistant to crabapple scab that you might not have to spray at all. Some of them, like Royal Raindrops, for instance, that's one that we sell that we've been growing for a number of years. Very improved crabapple with great disease resistance. So if you have one of these older varieties, come in. I actually have a handout that goes over a lot of what I've just talked about. Because it's such a frequent problem, I typed up some instructions, so it's really hard to read on the label of the product. So I've typed up instructions, typed up a little timetable for you, make it super easy. Just come in, say, hey, I've got apple scab, I want to treat it, and we'll set you up with the right product. We'll set you up with a sprayer if you need it, and we'll set you up with the instructions. So I hope that helps. If you ever have any questions about plant, tree, diseases, anything like that, or of course about plants themselves, come on in and see me. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.